Relationship is a loose term fans like to toss around, but it usually means two people working as a romantic couple. However, for the sake of this video and Stranger Things, we want to expand that definition to any pair of characters that seem to have an emotional arc. That's the rule for this video, so keep that in mind as we count down these entries from worst to best. It's a Binger special here on the channel, so let's settle in for a good time. Ugh. We're starting this thing off with a real thud of an entry, aren't we? Look, Karen and Ted, they're sweet. They're raising a family in the middle of Hawkins, Indiana. It's not their fault their small suburban home is the center of some extreme supernatural activity. The reason the Wheeler parents are at the bottom of this list is simple. Basically, they don't do much at all for the first 2 seasons. And we don't imagine that's going to change here in Season 3. So with little to go on, it's hard to put them any higher on the list. However, it's still a relationship on the show, so it's worth talking about a little. Karen and Ted seem to get along fine. Nancy alludes to the rocky foundation of her parents' marriage a few times in the show, but they seem like a normal casual couple. Occasionally, Karen appears to be more than frustrated by the stagnation of their relationship. However, the two seem more than settled into their routine. Honestly, the big problem is Ted. He's uninteresting and dull. He lacks any motivation to take part in the lives of his children. He feigns parenting advice and often fails to pay attention to the real conflicts in his kids' lives. Now, this attitude is all for comedic effect, but we're taking it in relation to his wife, Karen. Overall, the Wheelers are too much of a side note to make it any higher on this list. Alright, everything from here on out is going to get a wee bit controversial. The truth is, some people will enjoy some couples more than others, you know? However, the Binger is confident that this relationship is near the bottom of most people's lists, including our own. It's not a diss on Max and Lucas individually, but more about the writing that brought them together. Lucas and Dustin are a wonderful pairing that work in a dynamic way. The first season set them up as a strong relationship between great friends. We trusted that that would continue. But instead, we got this real rocky story. Max came into the picture and the dynamic changed dramatically. Max herself, she's not the issue, and we can't stress that enough. She works very well in the group and fans are ready to see her grow more in the next season. The problem is the paper-thin trope of romance worked into her appearance. And yeah, the new girl in town catching the eye of some of the main protagonists, it's already a trope. However, it's the love triangle that bothers us the most. Dustin and Lucas didn't need to fight over the introduction of Max into the group. It felt inauthentic and turned many fans off of that relationship. The companionship for all parties involved should improve in the next season. Sadly, we don't have a ton of faith. Here's to hoping the wins in this relationship sales aren't completely knocked out already. It may surprise some viewers to see this relationship so low on our list, but the internet seems to agree with this placement. A lot of the viewers didn't like the direction Mike and Elle's relationship went in Season 2. I mean, sure, not everyone agrees with the placement here, but hear us out, alright? Mike and Eleven's chemistry was dynamic in the first season. Fans were excited to see the growing trust between these two complex characters. They were truly people from two starkly different backgrounds, but it worked so well. Then Season 2 happened, and things went a bit sour. We all waited anxiously for the reunion between Eleven and Mike near the last couple of episodes. Unfortunately, the writing lacked a real punch. Ultimately, the relationship was just tossed in as a basic romance plot. Now, there's nothing wrong with the two having a romance, but the problem came in its simplicity. Eleven is living a complicated life. It needed to play a part in the growth of her relationship with Mike. It's time to rectify this slight oversight in the new season and rebuild faith in this pairing's future. It's regrettable to see this relationship so close to the bottom of the list. However, it's also the first non-romantic relationship to crack our list. We don't believe that Lucas and Dustin are a bad relationship, but their bond has taken a real hit in recent storylines. After all, it's hard to take a back seat to Mike and Will's relationship, and Mike and Eleven's relationship. They get left behind in character development super often. However, that doesn't stop them from occasionally showing viewers glimpses of how close they are as friends. Those moments are what help us bump them up in this list. Lucas and Dustin saw some growing tension relating to Max and other disagreements during Season 2. However, the group is starting to grow up now in Season 3. And it's time for these two young boys to mature. mature. Hopefully, the maturity reaches their friendship too. It's super possible that Lucas and Dustin begin to grow apart in the season. We don't see that happening though, and we'd be willing to bet on that, especially considering the fact that there isn't much connecting them to the story outside of their friendship. Without each other, the two don't get a ton of screen time. Expect that to change soon, and it should be a positive change, but I mean, you never know what the future holds in the town of Hawkins. It's time to shift gears and look ahead to the relationship with tons of potential in Season 3. That's right, we're gonna start getting into some of the more promising relationships. These are the ones that the writers seem to be investing more in and developing in unique ways. So unlike Mike and Eleven, the relationship between Will Byers and Mike Wheeler appears to be becoming more complicated. While one is simplifying, the other is growing into a conflict. The teaser and trailer hint at a divide forming in this relationship. Yeah, we know we penalized Karen and Ted's relationship for being rocky, but that's because it's a boring, rocky relationship. Mike and Will splitting provides intrigue. Fans know the two are considered close friends. Mike telling Will it's time to grow up feels like a foreboding message. Will is becoming more alienated from the group, and his relationship with Mike reflects that change. The two clearly care for each other and support each other through difficult times. The problem comes from the difference in experiences in recent years. Will keeps losing out every time something bad happens in Hawkins. Contrasting that is Mike's budding romance with Eleven. Simply put, Mike keeps getting chances to grow up while Will keeps getting put down. The division will come to a head here soon. It's time for the intrigue to reach its peak. That's why this relationship is higher up on the list despite the limited screen time. Admit it, you didn't expect Steve Harrington to make the character turn he did in Season 2, did you? Many fans expected him to keep playing the flat character we saw in Season 1. Things changed for the better, and a lot of it centered around his relationship with Dustin. Hence why this relationship is considered one of the better ones in the series so far. Dustin offers Steve the chance for redemption. Instead of tying Steve's arc to Nancy, the new direction changes the pace. A master and apprentice route with comedic overtures is a nice change of pace for this darker adventure show. Everyone needs a little humor mixed in with the drama and action. Steve and Dustin can offer a lot of that here in the next conflict. Neither character is perfect. Dustin tends to butt heads with his friends on occasion, and Steve tends to be a bit full of himself. Yet somehow the two together make a very enjoyable pairing that mimics a nice brotherly relationship. However, not everything about these two being together is perfect. Their dynamic is a bit one note at times. Steve and Dustin will never be the central characters in any main or subplot. Putting them together makes them more interesting side characters, but it doesn't get them out of that role. Perhaps in the next part of this group's adventure, things are going to change for the two of them. We just hope that if that's the case, the writers have them grow together and separate. Speaking of brotherly love, here is an example of actual brothers that provide us with a promising relationship. Many members of the Stranger Things fandom are hoping that this relationship will continue to grow here soon. After all, Will and Jonathan Byers are both intriguing characters. Watching them grow together as siblings is worth every bit of screen time. The raw, emotional connections between the characters in the show make Stranger Things a success. Of all the relationships, this one is one of the most emotionally intriguing. Jonathan and Will are dealing with no father figure. Working through that and growing up in Hawkins isn't easy. They're forced to rely on each other more than most people. Watching Jonathan do everything in his power to rescue his younger brother was touching. His deep connection with Will was apparent. It's amazing that the two don't speak to each other incredibly often, but the connection is easily understood. It's the shown connection that really sets these two apart. Tiny glances and little gestures go a long way towards binding these two brothers together. For many fans of the show, this brotherhood is one of their favorite slowly developing relationships. We're excited to see how it grows further as the conflicts around them begin to change. Shrek has something in common with the relationship between Jim Hooper and Eleven. They both have layers. We hope that reference wasn't lost on our viewers who aren't Shrek fanatics, but explaining it would take too much time. At the end of the day, all we're saying is Hooper and Eleven's dynamic is extremely complex. The two characters are both connected in a way that binds them like no other character. Tragic lives unite them, and the hope for redemption keeps them together. They're victims of the world. The two of them connect over the tragedies in their lives in a beautifully unspoken way. Hooper lost his daughter to cancer, and the effects continue to drag on his psyche through the early episodes. His relationship with Eleven provided him a path towards a new start. Similarly, Eleven was torn from her mother as a child and raised by a twisted version of a father figure. Hooper provides here a chance to redefine what a parent means to her. The two are challenged by each other and forced to grow closer to survive in a harsh world. Their realities are like nothing any of the other characters face. That's why the two work so well together. It's also worth mentioning that the on-screen chemistry between Millie Bobby Brown and David Harbour is some of the best the series has to offer. The emotional range the two actors bring in scenes together is like nothing else on the show. Now that Hooper has adopted Eleven as his daughter, expect this relationship to continue to grow in a positive direction. There's a ton of promise here for future storylines. For the most part, the whole will they won't they dynamic is played out. However, for some reason, the relationship between Joyce Byers and Jim Hooper just feels different. Part of that is the way the writers keep the romance in the backseat between these two characters. For instance, many of the times Hooper and Joyce are together, it's not about a budding relationship. It's usually about solving a problem. The audience understands the chemistry between the two of them, but never lets it grow beyond whispers. The fans are meant to feel like they should be together, but no one's confident that it's going to happen. That element is what makes this overplayed trope work this time. We're meant to believe that they may actually not end up together. It's rare that a potential couple leans this far into the they won't end up together camp. It makes us excited to see what happens next between these two friends. Every interaction gleans more clues to their relationship. It takes skilled writing to make that kind of thing happen. A lot of the worst relationships on this list are because they don't grow past basic conversations. They're simple and bland. In contrast, our pick for the best relationship shows the potential to be so much more. It's true. Nancy Wheeler and Jonathan Byers' relationship is the best example of what this series can do when given the time to grow. Their dynamic in season 1 got off to a bit of a rocky start. For a moment there, it looked like the two would fall into the basic model of girl falls for dark and mysterious boy. The conflicts and storylines effect on Nancy and Jonathan brought out more chemistry and saved this relationship. Seriously, it was headed down a dark path there for a moment. The second season growth changed the direction for this couple. What started out as a basic high school pairing changed before our eyes. Fans began to see the connections between the two characters in a new light. They grew together and matured as a couple. The end result was a new chemistry and a new understanding. Suddenly, the two people we expected to be one-dimensional became well-rounded. Of all the relationships in Stranger Things, Nancy and Jonathan appear to be on the best path moving forward. The two of them are developing together like no other couple in the show. It doesn't feel basic anymore. It feels new. For once, show writers are treating a high school couple like adults. They're facing adult problems, and their conflicts aren't basic high school pettiness. Hawkins is a dark place and abnormal. It feels right that these two characters who work together to figure out its mysteries fall in love in a unique way. That's why they've earned the top spot on our list. That's all the entries we got. Did we leave out your favorite relationship? If so, please feel free to comment down below and let us know what you think. As always, stay up to date with all the latest countdowns from The Binger. All you need to do is subscribe and follow us to stay in the loop.